White people called it a slur. Black people turned it into a legacy that's still standing today. And what happened at Inkwell Beach in Oak Bluffs might be the most powerful story of Black resistance nobody's talking about. Picture this: the late 1800s, peak segregation. Black Americans were locked out of nearly every beach in America. The resorts wouldn't welcome them. The public beaches turned them away. The nice areas made it clear, your money isn't good here, your presence isn't wanted here. So Inkwell Beach and Martha's Vineyard became something else. It became refuge. According to the Martha's Vineyard African American Heritage Trail and documented historical records, around the 1890s, Black families began discovering this small stretch of sand in Oak Bluffs. It wasn't the fancy resort area, it was just a beach, but it was theirs. White residents on the island, seeing Black people gathering there, started calling it the Inkwell, a pejorative reference to the skin color of the beachgoers. They meant it as an insult. They meant it as a mark of inferiority, a way of saying, this is where the colored people go. But something remarkable happened. The Black community didn't hide from that name. They didn't shrink away in shame. They reclaimed it. They said, our name is the Inkwell, and we're proud of it. That's power. By the early 1900s, according to the African American Heritage Trail records, Black families began buying property in Oak Bluffs. They weren't renting, they were purchasing. This was radical. Generational wealth in a country designed to keep Black people propertyless. In 1903, Henrietta and Charles Shearer opened a laundry business. By 1912, that laundry had transformed into Shearer Cottage, the first African-American-owned inn on Martha's Vineyard. According to historical documentation, it became a sanctuary for Black luminaries. Adam Clayton Powell Jr., Paul Robeson, Madam C.J. Walker, Harlem Renaissance writer Dorothy West. Black excellence had a safe space to gather. As the decades rolled forward, Oak Bluffs became known as one of America's most thriving Black resort communities. According to the Inkwell Atlas Project and community documentation, by mid-century, the town had become a gathering place for Black professionals, entrepreneurs, artists, and families. Every August, thousands arrived. They weren't tourists passing through. Many were multi-generational property owners. Great-grandmothers who bought homes in the 1920s had grandchildren and great-grandchildren inheriting those same houses. That's not just a vacation, that's legacy. But there's a tradition that carries the deepest meaning. In 1946, a group of Black women workers who had only their early mornings free before their service jobs decided to swim together. They came to Inkwell Beach at dawn. They jumped into the Atlantic. They reclaimed their own bodies as sacred. According to community records, a woman named Myrtle O'Brien named them the Polar Bears. Now, 80 years later, every single summer morning from July 4th through Labor Day, the Polar Bear Swim happens at 7:30 a.m. Dozens of Black women, young and old, jump into that water. It's still resistance, it's still joy, it's still freedom in action. Think about the symbolism. A slur turned into a safe space, a segregated beach transformed into a place of intergenerational wealth. A place where, in the words of writer Jill Nelson, the weight of being a race representative is lifted, where Black people can just be. That's what Inkwell Beach became. Today, Martha's Vineyard draws the Obamas, celebrities, artists, intellectuals. But beneath that glamour is something more profound. This is where Black wealth compounds. This is where intergenerational property ownership meant survival, meant legacy, meant power. The businesses that thrive there now, Black-owned restaurants, boutiques, spas, they exist because generations ago, Black families made the choice to invest in themselves, to build, to stay. But here's what people don't realize. Places like Inkwell Beach are threatened. Gentrification creeps in. Property values soar. Younger generations can't afford what their grandparents built. The community that took a century to establish is now fighting just to stay in existence. The question becomes, how do we protect spaces that have already been stolen once? How do we ensure that Black legacy isn't commodified and erased a second time? Inkwell Beach has survived slurs, segregation, and centuries of exclusion. It's thriving, but that thriving is fragile. It depends on Black families understanding that buying property, investing generationally, supporting Black-owned businesses, that's not just a transaction. That's revolutionary resistance. So here's what I want to know. Have you ever experienced a space like Inkwell Beach where you could just be free? Where your presence wasn't questioned? Where your money had value? Where your history was honored? Comment below. Tell me about it. Because understanding these spaces, celebrating them, protecting them, investing in them, is how we build the future our ancestors fought for. Like this, share this with someone who needs to know this history, and follow because the inkwell is still flowing, and so is the fight to keep it alive.